Okay, we're live. Super cool. This was not a scheduled one, so it may take folks a while to find it. And
Hmm.
Joey, thanks for coming on. But you and I've got a lot of catching up to do. So what's going on in your world, dude? What's new and crazy in helium?
Boy, well, I guess the thing that caught the headlines, it's always the bad stuff, but
Yeah.
Solana had some downtime this week. So that was
But that was what, the first time in like a year or something?
first time in a year. It was the Helium project's first time ever.
Yeah.
Like Helium's never seen Solana downtime. And as we sort of designed everything, it kind of went off without a hitch. So there were a couple hours there where you couldn't onboard a new hotspot or transfer tokens, things like that. But otherwise, things were you know moving right along.
Yeah. It seemed like, I mean, I was a little bit out of it because I was out at mom's house taking care of her. But I saw it and it was like, damn, that's a is that all? It was just down
Mm-hmm.
for a couple hours. Like, what the fuck is everyone so pissed about?
Yeah. Well, and
Uh,
you were out east. I'm Pacific Coast. I woke up and everything was solved. So it was
yeah,
the Solana validator folks, I guess, hopped right on it. But,
yeah. It didn't
yeah.
seem like it was that big of a deal. Turn my
Yeah.
foot warmer on. So I just got back in late last night, and I am definitely behind what's going on. What's up, Derek? What's up, Siegfried? What's up, Hector? How you guys doing?
Yeah. People are rolling in here.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Super cool. Okay, so that went on, and then anything else that I that I missed while I was taking care of old Mumsy?
I mean, I haven't caught up with you in
It's been
two
2 weeks,
weeks, I
right? Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So I'm
We missed you
kind
last
of
week.
racking my brain.
Okay.
So one of those weeks, the Helium Foundation team was doing an offsite, so we were able
Okay.
to all get together and do a bunch of planning and scheming and all the fun stuff. So um,
All right. Tell me
it,
all the
it,
secrets. What's going on?
yeah, no, there's some cool stuff. There's implementation of protocol stuff. So there's HIPs and coordination to do around hex boosting and all of these sort of attributes of mobile network. And then we got to do a lot of brainstorming on the IoT side of things. My sneak peek that I will offer is there may be a way to bring back discovery mode um, in a sort of different
People love
form.
that disco.
They do love the disco, and it actually has a lot of really cool applications for you know network validation, things like that. So
Yeah.
we're playing around with some ideas there. It
There's a
touches a lot of pieces of the stack, but yeah.
there was a palette of helium 5G mappers floating around at one point. That's Nova's palette, I think.
5G. So the spot mapper.
Yeah, like the badass whatever that was. I don't know
Okay.
where those are going or where what happened with them. I know at one point it's like, oh cool, these things are going to be awesome, but I haven't seen any
Yeah,
updates on that.
I don't know what's going on with the spot mapper. I think the mapping on the phone seems to be getting a lot of traction. So
Yeah.
maybe they're prioritizing that. The phone can only give you so much data, so maybe at some point they're gonna have to bump it up. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
off
yeah, I'm
that one's
actually
off my radar. So
yeah,
yeah,
now it's back on. You should beep boop beep. Hey Nova, how about the
yeah,
mappers?
yeah, yeah.
I got to go out and put my outdoor Wi-Fi hotspot up today. I plugged it in before I left because I'd been talking on um, Helium Discord, which I haven't been participating in the Helium Discord a bunch lately. I did obviously early on a ton, and I
Mhm.
just forgotten how fucking helpful everybody is there. Right? They don't care
Yeah,
if you're old or new, experienced or inexperienced. Like for the most part, you get on and ask a question, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, here's the problem." And I'd like to think that I did a little bit of searching beforehand, so it wasn't like a dumb question. Dude, I got this. This is this is super funny. So I'm working with another project, and they've got these this like back channel support, a Slack support channel where they're always talking about like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's how we have to do this. We have this user with this problem, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things I'm trying to get them to publish are some of the things that come in from users that are just fucking ridiculous. And they got one the other day where it was a picture of the miner. The box had been opened as if by like a I don't know, like a Doberman had opened it, and there was a jar of peanut butter inside. So it's like ripped apart. The miner's just sitting there, and the support question is, "I got this. What do I do now?" Question mark.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh,
Dig
fuck.
dig out the instruction packet or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've got the hello at Helium Foundation email, and we collect a lot of interesting things, and our community managers, show off some highlights every now and then. So I won't go into any specifics, but
Yeah. We should totally, I should go
there's some
around all the
creative
projects I
stuff.
work with and be like,
Yeah.
hey, give me your worst fucking support things. And like not the super negative stuff where someone comes on and is just like, oh, you guys are whatever, but just like the
Oh yeah.
funniest things. What was the other one I saw? I mean,
Oh,
they're all
the,
just
the
stuff.
the wildest ones aren't even like I have a problem. It's like, why doesn't your thing also, cure cancer or something? And it's like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it'll just be paragraphs of why.
Where's the cure cancer button? I'm smashing
Yeah.
the other buttons. It's not
It's like,
working.
devs do something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like,
Please,
yeah,
devs, help me.
yeah, um,
Yep, that's fun.
yeah, that's fun. Yep.
Yeah. It was good to see. I got a laugh out of it, but I think a lot of these projects are like, oh, I don't want to put that out there. It's kind of negative, and I think in a lot of cases, with all these projects, they don't have an infinite support team. In some cases, there is no support. With Helium, there's no like direct Helium support line for Foundation. So it's just people getting used to this decentralization. So.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing to think about. Like Farcaster is like the new Twitter that's built on Ethereum thing.
Everybody
like,
keeps saying it. Have you used that thing?
I created an account,
Yeah.
but also somebody created a Helium account, and it wasn't us. So
Okay.
like, there's no support to go ask. Like, that's just like it's a whole different world for that. So,
Yeah, I paid
anyway.
whatever the Ethereum was to create an account a while ago. They may have made it free now. And I farted around on it. It was like, dude, Twitter is just easier, faster, better, more people. I think in some cases, and I'll get a bunch of hate for saying this, but like decentralization is not always the best option. It's just one tool in the toolbox.
I mean, yeah. Social media networks need a certain amount of moderation, I think, and gating controls, because all of us have had the imposter account created that tries to scam somebody. Like, where's the
I'm
support
finally
line
getting
for
mine.
that, right? Like,
I'd avoided it for a long time, and now I'm starting to get messages where it's like, "Hey, is this you?" And it's Gristle King dot or Gristle King underscore. I'm like, nope. But it took a long time for them to figure that out.
Yeah, that's where you need some centralization or some controls or something. But anyway,
that's where you need airstrikes. Dude, so I had this other funny thing happen this week. I was out in Indianapolis taking care of Mom, and she said, hey, there's this blockchain meeting. She's 79 and a part of this group that meets once a week on Mondays, and you can tune into the Zoom or you can go into the actual whatever meeting hall. And she said, this week's meeting is on blockchain and cryptocurrency. Do you want to go? I was like, hell yeah. Wow. So I went there expecting that it would be a bunch of young folks. Like it'd be like all of the other blockchain events that I've been to, mostly pretty young people. Usually I'm like one of the older ones there. Nope. Walk in. I think the next oldest person was probably 65, and it was up from there. There's a lady at my table, 95 years old. So we go in and I, sit down, and it's a big, like not auditorium, but big like meeting hall. And I don't know, maybe 10 of the big tables that seat 8 to 10 people each. And they were filled. There's probably 80 people there. And there's a presenter. So it's just this group of former, they told me chemical engineers, like a bunch of kind of professionals who've been in the science world for a while, and they want to keep their brains open. So I sit down at the table with my mom, and, she limps in. We sit down, and she doesn't always go to the physical one. She usually goes to the Zoom one. So she's introducing herself. She's like, hey, I'm Janet, da-da-da. This is my son. He's my visitor or my guest today. And they're like, oh, what? Actually, no, before they asked me this, I was like, oh, what are you guys ready for this topic today? And they're like, yeah, crypto is a bunch of Ponzi schemes. Like, I don't like this, but I come to these things anyway, and I don't want to miss a Monday. And one guy's like, yeah, it's all fucking scams. And I wore my best shirt, and he's got like a Indiana lottery shirt on. He's like, I want to represent crypto. Like, they fucking hated it. They were really mean about it. And then it comes around the table, and they're like, okay, guess, like, what's your deal? Where are you from? What do you do? I'm like, well, I'm from San Diego and I run a cryptocurrency consultancy or a blockchain consultancy. And they're like, oh, huh. And then they spent the next 10 minutes trying to convince me that I was wrong and that I shouldn't be doing this and that it was a scam and everything.
Oh, I thought you were going to turn them around.
Well,
Yeah.
the story's not over yet. So then the speech starts and they're like, hey, do we have any guests here? And I don't know any of the protocols here, but apparently when they have guests, you're supposed to stand up and introduce yourself. And I was like, okay, great. So I stood up. Hey, I'm Nick Hawks. I run a blockchain consultancy. I'm really excited to see what you guys are learning here. And the guy who's speaking is like, oh, I should probably have you speak because I don't actually know that much about this. I was trying to learn as much as I could before giving the presentation. So he gives the presentation and it was really, really, I mean, I am making fun of these people because they're like enemies for a while. But it was really cool to see all of these old people, and there's no other way to say it. Like they wasn't like there were spring chickens in that room. All these old people trying to keep their minds open and trying to understand this thing. And then this one guy who was a former banker or something. So he gave it from the perspective of like, hey, I'm going to tell you what blockchain is and economics and how the two things come together. So there's no deep dive. It was only Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's all he talked about. And it was really cool to see these older people trying to wrap their heads around this crazy new thing. And for most of them, they're like, you could almost hear them like yelling in the background, like scam, Ponzi. And it was interesting to see his perspective because he had gotten a couple things wrong. He's like, it's not ready for high TPS, transaction per second. Like the fastest it could go is 4 TPS. I'm like, have you heard of Solana? That I think does like 2,600 TPS. And he's like, Visa's 1,700. So, nothing's even close. And it wasn't like at first I wanted to stand up and be like, this is fucking wrong. And I'm like, no. I'm going to sit down and let these people figure it out. And if they have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And by the end of it, so I had a little bit of back and forth with the speaker and back and forth with the people at the table. And by the end of it, they're like, hey, we'd actually like to invite you to come back and speak to us on whatever it is that you know. And so that was kind of cool to think as these people basically fade out of life, right? They're in their last like 10 years, probably, maybe 20. Is they're seeing the birth of this brand new system that isn't perfect. It's not the panacea. It's not the be all end all, but they're watching it. And I'm seeing the same thing in them that I'll probably see in myself when I'm 80 and whatever the thing is comes along. And I'm like, this is bullshit. But they're smart enough because they all seem pretty intelligent people to see like, maybe we're wrong and maybe we are seeing something cool. So really cool experience.
That's awesome. This really reminds me of there's a guy in our community that he's kind of all over the crypto space. You've probably come across him, but his name's Scott Tyndall, and he's out of Mobile, Alabama, and he hosts a radio show he calls Beyond the Blockchain, and it's a similar thing where he's just putting out little trickles of information every week. People tune into the show, and they can cast their own opinions or take whatever they want from that. But it's a really neat way for it's a good reminder that we're in a bubble, I think. Is kind of what I'm taking away from what you're saying, right? Like we talk on Twitter, we talk on these platforms, YouTube, all that stuff. That's our playing field. But there's a lot of other people out there that are trying to get that information.
Yeah. No, and I think to 619's point, disappointed in the Helium Mobile Instagram ads. I think there's two parts to this. Is what Helium Mobile is Nova. But just keep in mind that exactly to what Joey just said is that we all like live and breathe this, right? We all know what a wallet is. We all know what an address is. Most of us have an idea of whatever TPS, or let's say they don't. But most of us have heard of Solana. Most of us have heard of, Algorand, of, things beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's all natural to us. When we start talking about, hey, I'm going from the gateway and I'm dropping into this sensor and I need a decoder, like that's fucking foreign language to 99% of people out there. And so when Helium Mobile comes in and says, what's your first kiss? And I'm assuming that's what it was. It's some like marketing thing. That's where we have to start. Is you have to get people interested in the thing and then they can figure out the rest of it. Then they can figure out about earning cryptocurrency and how you exchange it and what it is and how a blockchain works and how a blockchain is like or unlike a ledger and what a distributed ledger is. Like all of these things that are totally natural to us are real, like they're completely foreign to normal people. So it is frustrating sometimes to see it explained, in really overly simple ways. But at the same time, it's like, well, 300 million people in America. There's, I don't know, I bet 10,000 of them, probably less, know what the fuck is going on with crypto. Maybe it's 50,000, but it's not very many people.
Right. Yeah, there's the folks that have touched it and the folks that understand what it is that there's bought on Coinbase or whatever. It's a
Yeah.
bit of a
So
distinction
one
there.
dude came up to me after the end, one of these old guys, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a question for you." He's like, "I got scammed a while ago, and I got it all back, and I got it back in Bitcoin, and they sent me 5 Bitcoin to my PayPal." It's like, wow, you got scammed out of a lot of money. And he's like, "How do I get the Bitcoin out of my PayPal?" Like that's the level of question that these folks are asking. Where to me, I translated that as you got scammed, you didn't get anything back. You don't know what you're doing at all. He's like, well, I tried to sign into PayPal with a different account and it keeps me locked into the same account. Like they're so far back in technology that unless someone makes a focused effort to educate them, they'll basically die never knowing how to fucking use this stuff.
Yeah,
it's just, it's wild to see.
it frankly terrifies me.
Yeah.
There's just because like there's a lot of contextual information that goes into doing all this stuff. It's part of this goes back to what you're saying. You just got to make the most dead simple thing that keeps people from getting rugged.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because here we are in this conversation. I'm seeing Siegfried in the chat like, hey, make sure you open up whatever PR write-a-thon Helium stuff. Like that is all natural to us. Most people reading this understand that Helium uses GitHub and that GitHub is kind of a pain in the ass if you're non-techie, but you can figure it out with ChatGPT and you can get things done. And if you really need help, usually if someone at Helium Foundation will be like, hey, you're doing something useful, let me help you with this. Most people we lost them when we said GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this
or ChatGPT or any of those things.
So mom calls, it sounds super fancy, but it's not. She calls a limo for me to take me from her house, which is on the north side of Indianapolis, down to the airport, which is on the south side. And it's basically like she doesn't trust Uber. So she has some service where it's, I don't know, it's probably like the same cost as Uber, but you call them and it's a fucking taxi, but she calls it a limo because it makes her feel good. So I get in the taxi with this limo with this guy. We're driving down, and I said, hey, he's telling me that he's like a comedian and he wants to do more comedy stuff, but he's having trouble, like, I don't think about bits or something. He's like, oh, you should use ChatGPT. Have you ever heard of it? He's like, nope. What is that? Like, holy shit. I'm out here on the left coast with all these like people who are like, everyone I meet knows what ChatGPT is. Like, they at least know what cryptocurrency is and that it exists. I think there's huge parts of the country, and this is, I'm going to get a little bit of like, what is it, pilloried for this, but like they don't know what the fuck any of that stuff is. They don't know that it exists. They don't trust AI, let alone like blockchain or cryptocurrency. So
yeah, it's wild.
In the future, Jay.
Yeah.
It's not even yet started.
Oh gosh, that's well. I did want to talk about this docs thing that Siegfried is bringing up.
No one's making a smoothies in, but it's raining outside. Maybe I'll try and mute it. See if that helps. Sorry, I saw it in the chat.
It could be on my end. Yeah,
I don't hear it, but I'll mute. Tell me about docs, Joey.
It's raining here too, and there's also tree work going on, so you might be hearing chainsaws or something like that. But one of the things that's been going on, so this actually already have been ongoing for a week. The Helium Foundation has put up $15,000 worth of tokens for the Solana Scribes hackathon in the Helium track. So we have our own track in this hackathon. It's actually the second largest prize in the entire hackathon. Somebody eked us out by $1,000. So I think it's going to get some attention there. But the whole intent is just to like take docs and make it the best experiences it can be in crypto. So we want to see contributions across the whole wide range of docs. Siegfried has been really helpful. I've sort of recruited him for review of a lot of the docs, just because such domain expertise and like I always respect the details that they'll find. Anyway, um, we've structured this in such a way that we want to try to get folks to collaborate on docs and not necessarily go and write like the first thing or the best thing or the fastest thing or something like that. Um, getting multiple people in collaborating to make a particular document better is the goal here. So we're basically assigning points to contribution efforts, small, medium, large, and then at the end of the hackathon, we're going to take all of those points and reward everyone who has points out of that 15,000 token, dollars worth of token pool. So there's IoT, mobile, and HNT in there.
Badass.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot of work on the foundation side. And this is what Siegfried's alluding to. Is like we got to clear out a couple of pull requests, make things, clean state for folks. I'm currently pushing through a Docusaurus upgrade at the same time, which is it's been a bit of a beast.
I
They
so want to
changed a
build a
lot of stuff.
Docusaurus site.
Oh, geez. Yeah, they changed more than I hoped they would.
Oh, really?
Anyway, some strangely like opinionated stuff, and it'll be pretty anyway.
Okay.
Pretty seamless.
Well, that's super cool to see that Foundation is still doing that stuff and putting basically token bounties out there to say, hey, if you want to get after it, here's a little reward for doing so.
Yeah. So I think it's it's a little bit of a push for somebody that maybe wouldn't have otherwise pulled down the repo and experimented with it. So This treat it as an opportunity to learn how to run docs on your machine, and get some tokens for doing it. I'm also doing weekly workshops. So I think the next one is tomorrow morning at the same time. So you can jump on Discord, and it's just an open format thing. Come on, join the stage, screen share, ask a question in text, like whatever that is. Oh yeah, this is a great question. So Derek, grammatical tweaks or editing or code editing. Grammatical tweaks will earn you a small contribution point, basically. But we've got a lot of those coming in. I'm finding they create a lot of overhead in terms of pull request, like review work. So I'm definitely at this point pushing more towards like grab a page, work it from top to bottom, make sure it totally tracks for the state of the world that Helium is in today. A lot of these pages will talk about mining, it'll say a line like hotspots. I think we've erased a lot of the HNT ones, fortunately, but a lot of them will say like hotspots earn IoT, just because that was the fastest way to update that sentence from HNT. But we need to talk about the entire ecosystem of things that can be rewarded. It's, staking, or I don't call it staking, locking up tokens for
voting,
vote escrow positions, having a cell phone that does the mapping, like all those other things. So there's a lot of stuff to think about when we write these things over again. The homepage is lacking. Like there needs to be like, what does it mean to mine HNT? What does it mean to earn HNT? We need a whole page that just like talks people through that, because if you're a new person coming into Docs, you're going to have one of three questions, like how are people using this network? How can I earn something on that? How can I mine it? That's always the question that people look for.
Oh yeah. What's in it for me?
Yeah. And like, who's doing it? What's going on? What's the demand? How's the project going? All that kind of stuff. So I'm also going to work. We've got a analytics company, Top Ledger. I'm going to start doing a little bit of work to pull in analytics from them. I think that'll be a neat aspect for some dynamic data in the docs. But yeah, it's a fun thing all around. I'm glad we're doing sort of this kickstart of docs again, because it's just been mostly just me, like nights and weekends, like finding a page and locking myself in a room to knock it out.
Yeah. No, it's an important thing, but I mean, these docs change so fast, not just for Helium, for everything. I wrote up this rough guide to Wingbits, which is another Deepin project that tracks the ADSB stuff. I think we talked about it before. when I wrote it, it was the most up-to-date, factual, best guide out there, I think.
Mhm.
There's another guy who might disagree, Simon, and I pulled a lot of my stuff from him. What is it, Simon on or Simeon on security? So he had another great blog post, but there's only 2 blogs out there at the time, and we both attacked it different ways. It was the best thing out there. Wingbits has since changed pretty significantly in the way that they reward their people and how they allow people to participate.
Mhm.
And here's the thing that I'm now kind of really tuned into is there's zero incentive for me other than I want to have accurate information out there to change the blog article. And I've got a lot of other stuff that basically, to be super frank about it, like pays the bills. Like Wingbits was a fun thing to write about, but they're not a client. There's no like reason for me to take, hours out of my day and say like, oh, I'm going to totally update this all the time. And it's the same thing with Helium. Some of the early blog posts I wrote for Helium were certainly, they got hundreds of thousands of views and they helped a lot of people learn about it, but they're completely out of date now.
Yeah.
But if there's no reason for me to do it, and I've got other clients who are saying like, hey, we want to pay you for your time, it's pretty difficult to have these things keep, stay up to date. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you guys putting some resources behind that and making it more official. Cause I always felt it was a funny thing that it's like, how the fuck is it that I have the best blog post about Helium and Helium doesn't have the best blog post about Helium?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it's a lot more fun to do the discovery and like write that first document. It's
I
a
love
lot
it,
less
yeah.
sexy to get in there and like
Yeah.
like it's such a drag like to read these sentences like 4 times over and then realize like that's not even right, and then now you have to go dig up that information. That's work.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful to see some folks get in there and sort of do that level of analysis and clean up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. So
there's a lot to do. I've been thinking about how I do it for the GK blog, and I don't have a great answer. I think it's just going to be I'm going to do on the blog side all the rough guides. I'm just going to do the fun, sexy work, and then I'm going to fuck off and go do the next piece of fun, sexy work.
One big piece of it, I think, is just slapping a like last updated timestamp on every single article and be blockchains move real quick. This was accurate as of July. Man, good luck. So,
yep. And maybe I'll set like a reminder to do that a month after I write the article or 2 weeks. Because usually when you first write it, and this is totally marketing bullshit, but you don't want to put something on there. It's like, hey, I just wrote this thing. This is what's going on. Like you want it to seem like when people find it, like, oh, this is the definitive guide, which is total marketing bullshit. It's actually less helpful to help people understand, but it's far more helpful from the search side and people sharing it. It's like a little weird little tweak. So,
yeah.
So
that's another idea for folks out there. If you feel like getting into the guts of Docusaurus, we need a widget that includes a timestamp for each page.
Yeah. So. I like that. So we'll turn a little bit personal stuff as I've been working on this VO2 mask grant. It was due last Tuesday and I was working like mad on it and I had everything submitted. And then the day before I submitted, actually maybe due at 9:00 this morning. But I submitted on Monday. I see there's a ticker up at the top right of what's called the DSIP, which is the government website you put all this stuff on, that says you have, 4 days, 2 hours and 19 minutes left, and it ticks down as you're writing. And it goes from, you have like 1 day left, all of a sudden you have 8 days left. I'm like, it's got to be wrong. But it turns out a bunch of people, this is all, here's me, like, not hearsay, me guessing. Is that a bunch of people wrote their congressman, maybe they partied a little bit too hard over the holidays and got behind, and they're like, hey, we need this thing extended by a week. And so the congressman, because this is money for, coming into their district, made a bunch of noise, their senators made a bunch of noise, and the thing got extended by 7 days, which was super lucky for me because I'd formatted everything totally incorrectly. I hadn't even realized there were formatting directions. So I think it read like a really good Gristle King blog post. It wasn't actually in the format that they wanted it. So thank God it's given me a week to go fix it. Because I think I have, knock on wood, a super strong proposal for this thing. And it would have been a total bummer to get knocked out by, not having whatever, like a 1-inch margin all around or, an 11-point font instead of 12-point font. Just like little things that I think of as stupid.
Yeah. So that's in. Do you know when you hear back on it?
It's not in. No. So I've got 6 more days. And so I've been to like the rest, basically every day until next Wednesday, all of my free time goes to updating the structure. And then there's these things that you get called letters of interest that you basically write to someone and you say, hey, like I've got a buddy who runs an Olympic Olympic sports team.
Mm-hmm.
And this will all be public information anyway, but for right now, I'm not going to say it. And I said, hey, could you write me a letter? Like, would you guys be able to use this thing if this VO2 mask existed and your athletes could just slap it on and do their workout and check it? He's like, that'd be awesome. So he writes a letter of support to the government that I put in as part of this package. It says, hey, we're this Olympic team. This is our sport. If Nick was able to do this thing, we would totally be interested in buying it. It'd be super helpful. So basically,
Nice.
like an extra week to go get more what are called letters of interest. So
Okay. Yeah. Oh, killer. Well, fingers crossed on that. I think it'd be a cool thing to see evolve.
It's gotten so
just-
much better than it was. Yeah.
Some of the stuff you've showed me with like other ones out on the market, they're just bulky and a little funny.
There's
like
a big
so-
net cart with them,
yeah.
where they're $6,000 is the one that if I
Right.
had to get one right now, and all I wanted was something I could put on my face and worked really well and measured most of the things I want. That's the VO2 Master, which is at VO2master.com. But that thing's $6,000. And I think this thing that we're making right now, parts are coming in at $220, and that's if we make
Wow.
low volume, $220.
Yeah.
So that means, think about a general retail, you just double your parts price is your general margin. So let's just say this thing's going to be $600 by the time we're done fucking around. That's a tenth of the price.
Yeah, that seems like a totally accurate price point for like the use case that it's hitting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that's
for
like peak performance training stuff. Like you don't need one of those to like sign up for the gym.
Yeah. And it said, now I'm going around all these gyms and universities and saying, trying to get all these letters in. So if anyone watching this, if you know someone who's on a high performance team, I would love to be introduced to them and just say, hey, if this thing comes out, we'd be interested in it. So I'm working all my connections there. I think they're pretty good, but we'll see.
dog-
Let's see. What do you got?
The dog's real excited. It's raining here, so you get all the zoomies.
Apparently, it rained like the dickens while I was gone. And,
It's been wild. I had power outages. I was running around town with my chainsaw cutting trees out of the road. I had a
hell yeah,
blast.
Joey.
That's my happy place.
Yeah. No, it's like if I could get paid a living wage to do something, it would be me just running around the mountains like putting up radios.
Yep.
Or working somehow with my hands outside, but that doesn't pay enough in general. So
Yeah.
you got to do this other
It sure
stuff.
is fun though.
Yeah.
I saw in the chat, Derek was asking about the chat for the documentation thing. So it is, I'm doing different ones at different time zones. So the last one was sometime in the afternoon on a Friday. This one's going to be Thursday, this same time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And those are all happening in the Helium Discord. So there's events in the little like events tab at the very top.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
easy. I used to put these in the Helium Discord in the events tab, and then I just got lazy and stopped doing it. So
You should get those back in there.
Yeah.
A couple people check that out.
Yeah. We
Did I
probably
use
get a
the-
couple more folks on.
What router?
Didn't you have some like fancy router that you showed off one time?
Was it that Ubiquity Dreamwall thing that I did?
I don't know, maybe.
The-
A
yeah,
dream
well,
wall, huh?
So Ubiquity's got this line of internet appliances, I guess they call them.
Yeah,
So it's
okay.
a router. It's
Yeah.
it's all
You got
this
it set
stuff
up,
sort
yep.
of baked in. Yep, one big box. So yeah, it's set up. My house has got beautiful Wi-Fi. I got everything sort of all plugged in. I got power backup on it, which was really nice when the power went out this weekend. So I
Oh, nice.
clocked in at about 35 minutes of internet post power outage.
Damn,
so
I've got it. So I'm looking over
not
at
too
my
bad.
closet here, which has got my whatever switches and bits and bobs, and like it looks like a shit show. I totally want to clean that up and put in power and put in a little home server. We've talked about this before, but yeah, be super cool to have like a fully operational Death Star right in my closet.
Oh yeah, I was like, I heard the breaker pop. I was outside, and then I like immediately ran to the garage to see what was going on. And sure enough, everything was still running. Wi-Fi was going because I had the cable modem and I had the the Dreamwall, which has power over Ethernet,
Oh, it's
which
a
then
Dream
powers.
Wall is what it's called. Okay.
I went with that one. There's also uh, there's another thing that's like a rack mount version, but I
Yep.
just went on one that I could strap to the wall.
Okay.
Um,
There
but
it is.
yeah, so my hotspots kept running. Wi-Fi kept going. Everything was like power over Ethernet from there.
Ooh, wall
Pretty sweet.
mountable cloud gateway with a built-in Wi-Fi. Oh, the whole thing is one piece. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I ended up running 2 more access points. So
Mhm.
I basically took my power and then I ran up to the attic, and then I have like 2 access points to cover my
It's like the
place. So
most fun. It's so silly, but it's fuck. I love running cables through the attic and underground. Like I don't know why. It's a rotten job. I'm always taking video of it because I'm like, oh, I'll put this on YouTube, and then it's like shitty video because it's dark and you can't get lighting on there. It's a huge pain in the ass.
yeah, I've got some spider friends that I hang out with every time I go do that stuff. They're like that big.
Little buddies, yeah.
There's 2 of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Any thoughts on Daba? Yeah, I think Daba's awesome. I haven't talked to those guys lately about what's going to happen with Helium. I don't know if you. I think the last I saw, or I'm actually. What have you heard, Joey? I fucking forget what's public and what's not.
Yeah, well, they did some announcements. So they are not going to launch as a Helium token.
Cool. Yep.
So they
Good, that's
they sort of backed off of that. I think there was a HIP 64, if I'm remembering that correctly, that they're gonna sort of pull back on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of the extent of it. It's been a long journey for them. They existed before Helium had Wi-Fi on Helium.
And
So
those guys are sharp. They've been doing that for a while. They're building out a network over a country that is bigger than ours by what is it, factor of 5 or something, or 3.
yeah,
India's
with
lucky.
lasers and all sorts of stuff. Like they're doing a bunch of cool stuff. So I think it probably makes sense, given the shape of their project, for them to like kind of get things rolling on their own,
Yeah.
platform, figure out their own tokenomics, all that fun stuff. And then, if Helium's a fit down the road, like there's migrate. We've done enough of that.
We should do Helium cribs. That'd be great, Joe.
Helium cribs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear the OPSEC channel in our
Freaking
company
out.
chat going off. Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
so bad about
I'm not taking you all out of my sauna here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to do a Helium cribs because I don't give a fuck. It's like
yeah.
come at me.
Right. I almost did this from the garage today, but it was a little cold. So
Okay.
we'll get back in there once the weather warms up.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at my garage. It usually leaks during the rains, and I was gone. And my wife Lee was just like, I put some sandbags in front of the door because that's about as good as it gets. And I'm just like, I'm fucking afraid to go in there. But I had everything off the floor, so it should be okay.
Oh, Abi's in here. He's definitely gonna shout out the OPSEC.
Yeah. Helium cribs Abai.
No Helium cribs.
No, Helium cribs Abhay. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, so no Helium cribs. I like the idea. Zim, I think we should do it. And what we should do is we should have the foundation put up a bounty for best Helium crib.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be hard to top my antenna setup right now, but
I'll fucking
I'm going to
confident.
leave it
Let
at
me
that.
see. Lee says my volume's a little low. I probably need to get closer to the mic and crank it up a little bit.
Maybe I'm too close.
Nah, it's just like me not paying attention to the audio. The downside of the funky or the rad mics is that you do have to pay a lot of attention. Like you have a shitty USB mic and be way back here, and there's no difference at all. But with these nicer mics, you'll be right up on that mother.
Yeah, get that radio voice.
Hello. So, cool. Let's see. We talked about the VO2 stuff. We talked about the Helium Foundation stuff. We hit a little bit of wing bits. We talked about Wi-Fi Daba. We haven't talked much about WeatherXM, but they are just working away, getting closer and closer to mainnet. I've been in their Discord quite a bit lately, but it doesn't seem like there's anything huge going on that's like, oh my God, this thing broke or not. It's just like, oh, they're just getting closer and closer.
Mine broke. The wind actually blew it off of where I had it set up.
Improper mounting procedure.
It was improper mounting. It was not fully bolted down. But
and
I
you're
did
telling
bring
me
it back to
you
life.
got a better Helium setup than me, and you don't have a better WeatherXM setup? Come on, dude.
Well, so it's tricky. Weather stations are a weird thing to set up because they need like all of that free space around them, and there's all of it. It's like thinking about antennas all over again. You don't want an updraft hitting the thing. You don't want like some wall radiating heat at it. So
Yep.
I'm still kind of figuring out where that one lives.
Okay, up high,
Yeah.
360 degree clear. That's it. I mean, we see stuff
Yeah.
in WeatherXM all the time where there's like someone deploys. I'm going to make fun of it, but like they deploy a fucking weather station 3 feet off the ground with a fence on one side and a building on the other and a cow sitting next to it. And it's really a pretty picture. And like, hey, you like my deployment? Like, no, it sucks.
I saw one online the other day that made me cry. It was like on a roof with a brick sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
Like just like,
not so good.
Yeah. Not so great. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
should be
My
a little
like
better.
zip ties would have been an upgrade for the setup that I've got. I've got like, it's sitting there. And then there's like this 3-pound block of brass that just like holds it in place. And so it's, yeah, it got blown over. We had some serious gusts. I think we were up like 40, 50 mile an hour gusts up here. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what we had. Lee was telling me about a tornado down in South San Diego. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it touched down, but Instagram reported lots of them.
Okay.
So-
That's fun.
So there's that.
Yeah. But
I think that's most of it. I'm going to get up on the roof and get my... Oh, here's the last thing I had, and this is related to docks. So a couple weeks ago, I was fiddling around with a Meshtastic node up on the roof. I had the Layer 0 badass enclosure, which is really good enclosure. I left the door open because I was going up and down like all the time. And rain came in. I forgot the door was open. Rained on the Raspberry Pi that was running my DIY hotspot. Rained on everything in there. Ruined the whole thing.
Mhm.
So I've got the what's it called? The Swarm key for the DIY, which is one of the alpha code like magic things. And I went to go look for the docks to just like, oh, I'll put this in another Pi and fire it back up. And I couldn't find it. I was getting my ass kicked. So I reached out to Germ. I was like, hey, Germ, can you help walk me through this? He's like, yeah, if I get time, let me do it. Because I think he's probably one of the few people that is very likely to know exactly how to do it.
Mhm.
I bet there's about 6 people on the planet that can. Yeah, you can do it as well. Okay, great. Well, 2 of them are my friends. Fucking lucky me.
Yeah.
So if Germ can't do it, I'll reach out to you. But I'd love to see. The thing is, it's not that useful because there's only, I don't know if there's ever been a public number stated, but I think it's around 700 alpha codes got handed out. There's only about 700 DIYs that earn on the network, and there's probably less by now because they break after a while. But I'd love to see some docs around like, here's exactly how to do it. Starting with a fresh Pi and your Swarm key, from that to back up and running.
The nice thing is it is almost directly identical to a data only hotspot these days.
It is almost.
Yeah.
But
the only
almost
distinction
counts.
the only distinction is, so when you spin up a data only hotspot, you'll run that gateway RS the first time and it generates the key for you.
Yeah.
But if there's the key already there, it won't generate a key, it'll just use it. So you just drop your old key in the spot where it would put that key, and it'll read that key, and now your hotspot is, good to go.
I'm going to get it up and running, so I'll figure it out. But I spent, like 2 days trying to fuck around with that and not getting it right. So
Hit me up. I'll walk you through that.
no, badass, cool, super cool. I think that's most of it. I got to bounce. I'm going to go do a. There's this thing on Twitter called Wolf Web3 or something, and they reached out to me and they look like they're just a Web3 marketing craziness. In fact, Action CEO, who's I think on here, is on this thing with me as well. So we're going to be doing this thing on Deepin, and I think this is part of like my pay it forward to society, is just like going on all these things and saying, hey, Deepin is not a scam. Crypto is not a scam. Here's how it works. Here are the very basics of it. You get a miner, it does this thing. You earn tokens for it doing that thing. This isn't like a passive crypto thing where it works and you never do anything again. You typically have to do something like just the very basics of Deepins. Because I listened to one of them last week or 2 weeks ago preparing for this one, and it was it's fucking painful. It's like, bruh, I put this, and I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, I put this box on and I make $1 billion. Yeah, fuck yeah, Deepin.
Yep.
It's like,
I've been on those.
The downside of these things getting so popular is that people want the easy money.
Yeah.
So
I always my favorite thing is to pull it back to use cases, whether it's, WeatherXM, working with utilities, or Helium solving flood detection in Porto or something like that. Like,
super cool.
There's super cool stuff that real world impact. Like,
Yeah.
That's
and we're still early for a lot of it. So it's, there's not like the same real world impact of having 50 million cars on the road. Although we're getting closer with demo, but just like God, things are happening.
Yep.
So,
Sweet.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll let you prep, and happy Wednesday. We'll catch up next week.
Shit, yeah, buddy. I'll reach out to you about the DIY, and maybe we just do a video on that. We can spitball that a little bit and say this is how to do it, because that might be useful for a couple other folks out there, and maybe we just say, hey, here's how to do the data only hotspot, and here's the divergence where if you don't have a swarm key, you just get a thing that works and you get paid for the traffic. If you do have a swarm key, you'll get the POC side too.
Totally.
Maybe make it more useful for people beyond just me.
I think I've done enough of these data onlys in the past couple of months that we could probably knock something like that out in like a half hour. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Let's coordinate and fucking crush.
Sounds good.
Everybody,
All right.
thanks for coming on. Good to see you. See you guys later.
All right.
We're out.
Later.